They thought the Husky was becoming obsessed with the baby. They had it completely backwards. He wasn't obsessed. He was counting something. They didn't know how to count. The monitor was on, which is the only reason this story exists. Jonah was 8 months old and had been sleeping through the night without incident for 6 weeks. His parents, Retta and Cal, were first-time parents who had built their sleep schedule around the kind of careful precision that only new parents attempt and only new parents sustain. They had the monitor, the sound machine, the room temperature gauge, the weighted sleep sack in winter muslin. They had read every book. They had followed every rule. What they had not anticipated was the Husky. Orion was 3 years old, blue-eyed, gray and white, and he had been unremarkable around the baby since Jonah came home. Tolerant, disinterested in the way large dogs can be when infants are too young to be interesting. He slept in the hallway. He went to his bowl at his scheduled times. He was, to use Cal's word for it, a good dog operating at baseline. Then Jonah turned 8 months, and Orion stopped sleeping in the hallway. He started sleeping outside the nursery door. Not occasionally, every night. And not lying down, sitting, back straight, blue eyes facing the door. Cal found him there at midnight on the first night, moved him back to his bed in the bedroom, returned to sleep, and found him at the nursery door again at 2 a.m. He stopped trying to move him after the 3rd night. Retta thought it was sweet. Protective instinct, she said. Cal was less certain. It was the sitting that bothered him, not the location, the posture, the way Orion faced the door the same way a sentry faces a perimeter. The 6th night, Orion began to scratch at the door, not loudly, methodical, a slow, deliberate scratch, one paw, then pause, then again. Cal got up and opened the door to redirect him. Orion walked inside, walked directly to the crib, placed both paws on the crib rail and pressed his nose toward Jonah's face. Jonah was asleep, breathing, looked fine. Cal pulled Orion out and closed the door. Latched it this time. At 3:14 in the morning, the monitor activated with a sound that Retta would spend years trying to describe correctly. Not a bark, a husky vocalization, long, sustained, the kind that carries distance. She was at the monitor screen before she was fully awake. The image showed the crib, green-tinted in night vision. Orion was inside the room. She did not know how. The door was latched. She learned later that the door handle was a lever style, and that in his 3 years, Orion had opened this kind of handle before. Once, in the old apartment, to reach the kitchen. He was at the crib, both paws on the rail, nose pressed to Jonah's face, holding position. Cal was already down the hall. He saw it first. Jonah's eyes were open, but not tracking. His hands were loose. His color was wrong in a way that did not have a word yet for 2 people who had never seen an infant in neurological distress. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. They called 911 with the baby in Retta's arms. The paramedic who arrived, a man named Felipe Correa, assessed Jonah in 40 seconds and said 4 words that reordered everything. He's running a fever. 104.2. In an 8-month-old, that number moves from concerning to dangerous in a timeline measured in hours, not days. At the Children's Hospital, Dr. Adiz Nwachukwu, pediatric neurology, 14 years, sat with them after the initial assessment and told them what had likely been happening. Jonah had a febrile illness developing silently across the prior 2 to 3 days. The fever had been building beneath their detection threshold. He was warm, but not alarmingly so. Fussy, but explainably so. and had crossed into the danger zone sometime in the hours before 3 a.m. At his temperature and given the rate of change, a febrile seizure was the probable next event within the hour. The fever produces a distinct, volatile compound profile, she said. When a fever rises this rapidly in an infant, the scent chemistry of their breath and skin changes in ways detectable to dogs before any thermometer reading would alarm a parent. Every night Orion sat at that door, he was monitoring. Every scratch at the door was an escalating alarm. Every attempt at the crib rail was an attempt to deliver a report that no one in that house had a system to receive. Has your dog ever done something you couldn't explain until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. Another hour and we would be talking about seizure management and neurological assessment, Dr. Nwachukwu said. The fever dropped with medication. Jonah's temperature was 99.1. By morning, he ate. He tracked faces. He was fine. They drove home in daylight. Cal carried Jonah inside. Retta opened the car door for Orion, who rode in the back and stepped out with the matter-of-fact energy of a dog who had completed a task. He walked directly to the nursery, checked the crib, then walked to the hallway and lay down in front of the door. Not sitting this time, lying down, the posture of an animal whose job for the moment was done. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If these stories matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. That night, Cal left the nursery door open. Orion slept inside the room, on the floor beside the crib. Until morning, Jonah slept through without a sound. The monitor stayed on, but so did the dog. The next story involves a Great Pyrenees who blocked a toddler from a specific room in the house for 3 days, and what the contractor found inside the walls when they finally opened them.